When a Hollywood legend steps onto a late-night stage, you expect respect. But what happens when the host aims to chip away at a legacy for laughs? This was the moment Sylvester Stallone faced more than questions. He faced a war of words. The night had all the hallmarks of a standard late-night interview. Lowlights. A buzzing crowd. The jazz band rapping its intro as Jimmy Kimmel hit the stage with his trademark grin. "Tonight we have a very special guest," Jimmy began. "The man who made mumbling an art form, Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone." The audience erupted as Stallone appeared, his presence magnetic despite the years. In a sharp black blazer over a deep maroon shirt, he waved, then took his seat beside Jimmy, offering a polite smile. "Good to be here," Stallone said, his voice as gravelly as ever. "Good to have you, Sly," Jimmy replied, leaning in. "I was told you'd bring wisdom, experience, a few unintelligible syllables, maybe a protein shake." The audience laughed. Stallone chuckled, though his eyes narrowed just a touch. "Left the protein shake backstage," he said. "Didn't want to outshine your green juice?" Jimmy smirked. "So, the new movie another action flick? Or did you finally decide to make something with a plot?" Stallone kept his expression neutral. "It's a story about redemption, my veteran confronting the ghosts of his past. It speaks to real pain." "Deep," Jimmy said, with mock. "And here I thought it was just another excuse to flex those biceps." The crowd tittered. "Sometimes pain needs muscle," Stallone answered evenly. "Not to show off, to carry the weight." The temperature dipped a degree. "Poetic," Jimmy said. "Did Rambo teach you that, or Rocky?" "Funny," Stallone replied. "I always thought comedy should punch up, not down." Jimmy's eyebrows lifted at the jab. "Just having fun," he said quickly. "Don't want to get body slammed on live TV." "Don't worry," Stallone said. "I only hit when it's scripted." The tension was climbing, and the audience felt it. What began as banter edged into something sharper. Jimmy tried to lighten the tone. "Let's go back here first, Rocky. You wrote it in 3 days, right? Did you just run out of crayons?" A ripple of discomfort moved through the room. "I wrote it with everything I had," Stallone said calmly. "Sleeping in a bus terminal, trying to sell my dog to eat. So yeah, crayons weren't the priority." The crowd fell quiet. Jimmy looked taken aback. Stallone leaned forward. "You know, Jimmy, sometimes you crack jokes. Sometimes you crack dignity. Be careful which you're breaking tonight." The stage was set, the gloves off, and the interview was just getting started. Everyone expected jokes. What they didn't expect was a fight for respect unfolding live. With each remark, Jimmy went lower, and Stallone rose higher. Jimmy leaned back, smiling as if nothing had happened. "You know, Sly, you should try stand-up." That comeback was almost intelligible. Stallone didn't flinch. "And you should try sincerity sometime. It might surprise your audience." The crowd let out an audible ooh as the tension ratcheted up. "Let's be honest," Jimmy pressed on. "You've made more sequels than Hollywood has original ideas. Ever think of just letting it go?" Stallone crossed his legs slowly. "I keep telling stories people want to hear. Maybe that's what bothers you." Jimmy chuckled, dripping sarcasm. "Or maybe it's that you keep playing the same guy with a new haircut." Stallone's gaze hardened. "Better than being a new haircut with the same jokes." The audience roared. Jimmy forced a tight smile. Okay, touché. "But seriously, isn't there a part of you that worries people only see you as a punchline?" Stallone leaned in. "Only when hosts like you try to write the jokes." And for the record, Rocky wasn't just a film, it was hope for people who didn't have any. The energy shifted. Applause rose strong, sincere. Jimmy tried to regain control. "But you're a millionaire now, right? Isn't it a bit rich to talk about struggle?" Stallone's voice dropped. Struggle doesn't expire with a paycheck. It leaves scars, and it teaches you to notice when you're being used as someone else's punchline. Jimmy paused. You think I'm using you? Stallone didn't blink. You tell me. The room held its breath. For the first time, Jimmy looked uneasy, then laughed it off. Folks, I didn't realize we'd booked a philosophy major tonight. Stallone smiled. Funny, I thought we booked a host. The studio erupted again. Jimmy clenched his jaw. The tide was turning, and not in his favor. He pivoted. How do you respond to critics who say your career is just nostalgia, that without the past, you're not much in the present? Stallone's tone cooled. Critics talk. Legends work. I don't need to relive the past. I built it. A beat, then thunderous applause. Not just support. Respect. Jimmy leaned forward for one more try. Come on, Sly. Can't you take a joke? Stallone's smile faded. Can you take the truth? Silence thick enough to swallow the room. Jimmy turned to camera with a grin. We'll be right back after this short break, if Stallone doesn't punch me first. Everyone knew it wasn't just a break. It was a battle line. The fight wasn't over. When words cut deeper than expected, even the toughest feel the heat. Stallone didn't flinch. He answered like a man who spent a lifetime fighting to be heard. The commercial ended. The lights snapped on. Jimmy straightened his jacket, pasted on the polish. We're back with the one and only Sylvester Stallone, he said. Voice therapy. The man, the myth, the what is it now? 80-something action figure. Stallone let the laughter pass. Better to be carved in stone than made of plastic, Jimmy. Applause louder now. Something in the room had shifted, and Jimmy felt it. Well, Jimmy said, feigning calm, your fans are loyal. Almost aggressively so-like. They still think you're that scrappy underdog from Philly. I am, Stallone replied simply. I just wear better shoes now, Jimmy scoffed. But come on, Sly. Haven't we moved past the underdog thing? Isn't it time to hang up the gloves, literally and metaphorically? Stallone met his eyes. Do you tell a soldier to hang up his boots because the war makes you uncomfortable? Jimmy blinked. The air grew heavy. I don't think making a Rocky IX qualifies as war. It does when you're fighting cynicism, apathy, and the belief that people like me can't still inspire. The audience broke into applause. Stallone's steady voice carried weight. Jimmy jabbed again. So you're saying it's not ego, it's mission? No, Stallone said. It's responsibility to remind people you don't stop because the world tells you to. You stop when you decide you're done. Powerful words, Jimmy nodded, then added quickly, spoken like a man trying to sell a box office ticket. Stallone's eyes hardened. You know, Jimmy, you keep trying to turn this into a punchline, maybe because, deep down, you're afraid someone might take me seriously. The crowd erupted. Jimmy sat back, visibly rattled. You want to know what scares me, Sly? He said, feigning calm. That people think your on-screen persona is who you are. That Rocky is real. Stallone leaned forward. Rocky is real. Not just because I wrote him, but because millions saw themselves in him. He's a mirror. Jimmy's something you clearly avoid looking into. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, was electric. The tension had crystallized, and everyone knew it was about to explode. Even the most composed man reaches a point where enough is enough. And when Sylvester Stallone stood, the world watched. The air felt leaden as Jimmy leaned back. So, Sly, what's next? A line of anti-aging supplements. Maybe a reality show keeping up with the comebacks. The audience chuckled weakly, hesitation creeping in. They felt the shift. The moment had changed. Stallone exhaled slowly. You know, Jimmy, it's funny. You sit in that chair and poke fun like it's armor. But at some point, the jokes stop being clever and start becoming noise. Jimmy shrugged. It's just TV, man. You know that? Stallone's voice dropped. Maybe that's the problem. You treat everything like a punchline, even the people who came here with a story worth telling. A hush swept the room. Jimmy chuckled nervously. Don't be so sensitive, Sly. You've taken real punches. Surely you can take a few words. Stallone stood, calm, slow, deliberate. The audience gasped. I've taken enough, he said. And I've given enough to this industry, to this audience, to the spirit of what real storytelling is about. Jimmy rose too, trying to manage the optics. Hey, where are you going? We're not done. Stallone turned to the crowd. But I am. Silence, then applause erupted. Not from shock, but solidarity. Jimmy tried to laugh it off. Don't worry, folks. Next week, we'll have someone with a sense of humor. Stallone paused at the edge of the stage. Next week, try having someone with a soul. He started to leave, then glanced back before slipping behind the curtain. His eyes swept the studio years of battles, comebacks, quiet dignity rising behind his gaze. I've spent a lifetime building characters who fight for something. Maybe it's time late night did the same. The camera tried to follow, then cut awkwardly to Jimmy, blinking, unsure how to recover. Backstage, a camera crew caught Stallone walking past stunned staffers. Some clapped, others nodded. A young intern whispered, "Thank you." Twitter erupted. Hashtags like Respect Stallone and Late Night Gone Wrong began trending worldwide. Memes flooded the web. A still of Stallone, standing tall, carried the caption, "Strength isn't loud, it's dignified." The segment replayed endlessly on news outlets, dissected by pundits and praised by fans. Celebrities, actors, directors, athletes added their admiration. Stallone hadn't just walked out of a studio. He'd walked into history. What began as another late-night appearance became a moment of raw confrontation, one that exposed not just egos, but values. He didn't storm out in anger. He left in dignity. And audiences, in the studio and around the world, knew they'd witnessed something real. Who was right? Who went too far? Tell us in the comments. And if you want more stories that pull back the curtain on celebrity moments the world can't stop talking about, subscribe now. This wasn't just another talk show segment. This was a turning